Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Craig Morgan Music and More podcast. This week's podcast is brought to you by Monster Energy. They do make great energy drinks, but they also make my favorite, the Muscle Monster Shake. It is absolutely fabulous, and if you're on keto like me, it has fewer carbs than a lot of the other drinks. Great. Anyway, check it out. The shit's good. And we are grateful that they support us. And here's why, y'all. Not just because they support this podcast, but because of their support for our men and women in the armed forces. They're huge supporters of our military. So, Monster, thank you for that. And thank you for that milkshake. I love it. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Craig Morgan Music and More. This week's guest is somebody I am really excited to have here. I'm proud to call him a friend. I'm honored to be able to sit beside him, call him a hero.
You're reading the wrong script, bro.
Man,
that's for somebody else.
This is my time right now. It's all about you in a minute.
Sorry. I'll shut up.
You haven't seen him yet. You've just heard him. Some of you will already recognize this voice. Well known, has a company since retiring from the military, still giving back to the military, to our warriors, to the community. The same thing I say every time I have someone on the show. He's a great American. We celebrate all the same things together, talking about God, family, and country. And we're going to talk about the way he's doing it and the different avenues in which he's doing it, and talk about some of the things in the past. Let me just say rabbits.
Hey folks, I'm Kyle Lamb, president and founder of Viking Tactics.
All right, well now you know who it is. Sergeant Major Kyle Lamb, formerly Special Operations Operator, superhero, super stud guy, who's old now and pees on himself pretty regularly.
Yeah, but you're older than me. That's all that matters. I just hope I never catch you.
Yeah, me too. Look, first of all, thanks for being here, taking time out of your busy schedule. I say that. No.
Oh, no,
he is busy, but let me tell you, he's not busy doing the kind of stuff. He used to be the guy who was doing bad things to bad guys who were trying to do bad shit to us. And now he's doing good things for good guys who are still out there doing that. And one of the ways he does that, and I kind of picked on him at first, talking about the fact that you're making these axes and knives or all these things that you're doing, forging steel. And I said, it's probably therapy. And he said, yeah. Without I could tell this was not a joking face.
Yeah. And I think so. As veterans, or as the guys like we are, you don't have to be a veteran. You can be any person out there in America. And if you sit there and watch your social media all day, and you read the news all day, or you turn on the TV, it's depressing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not cool. I support the law enforcement military guys. They're taking it on the chin. That stuff's not telling them how much we support them. So what can I do to get away from that? So much like you, I do a lot of hunting. I do a lot of fishing. And about a little over a year ago, my son and I went to a forging class. I always wanted to do that. I made some knives and stuff when I was a kid, just grinding out stuff, but I never forged anything. And I went there and I stood in front of that forge, and I'm staring in there. And at the end of the day, I'm like, man, I didn't think about anything but that piece of metal. And I'm not saying that I want to get away from my life, because my life is awesome. But I do want to let my brain relax a little bit. And when I'm looking into that forge, it's relaxing. When I'm beating on a piece of steel, it's not real relaxing, but it's just good. It's a warrior thing to do. And then I make these tomahawks, and they're nothing spectacular, but I made them. I mean, I made the handles. My wife finishes the handles, and they're beautiful. She does a great job, and I'm trying to get better at what I'm doing. So I've met a whole different group of people. And the funny thing is, a lot of them are military or law enforcement background folks as well. I mean, some of the greatest, one of the greatest gun builders in America right now, a guy named Mike Miller, making flintlock stuff.
Yeah.
Retired law enforcement dude.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he was in the military or not. He's just north of
He
us.
was,
up here.
he was an LEO though.
Oh yeah. Oh, so you know him?
Yeah. Well, I know of him. I
Okay.
don't know him, but I know exactly who you're
His
talking about.
stuff is it's amazing.
Yeah, he's getting a lot of write-ups.
Yeah.
As you are. I don't know if you know this. I'm going to bring up a couple write-ups in a few minutes. I'll throw them up while you're talking about
Was
some
this
of
at
this
the
stuff.
post office? You're talking about
Not the
below
post
my
office picture. That
Okay,
one's
yeah,
different.
yeah,
That's where the rabbits came in and the mice.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Not the mice. No.
No,
There is a story behind the mouse though too.
Well, I want to hear that story, but first, you said something. I tell veterans this all the time. I have a lot of guys ask me, how did you transition from the military into the civilian life? And I say, I'm working on it.
Yeah.
And I've been out. I left active duty in 2004. I separated myself from most every affiliation at all in 2011. And when I say, you know what I mean, I still did other things for the military up until 2011. After 2011, my music kept me so busy I didn't have time to do those other things that I did enjoy doing. But I'm still working on it, and that was 9, 10. You know what I mean? That's a long time.
Yeah.
But I think the most important thing, and you said it, if you keep your head and your heart and your body busy, you can't get stagnant. And
You gotta have a mission.
Yeah, and you're so focused on what you're doing. Well, for one, you don't want to grind your finger off, or you can
It
lose.
keeps my fingernails nice and short though. Doing that.
I mean, would you agree? I mean, would you allude on that?
Yeah. I think though that the what I see with successful guys that have left the military, whether they retired or they just got out, they're mission-focused people. Now that, civilians may not like to hear the word mission. Well, I don't care about civilians. I care about what my thought process is. And then I go do whatever my mission is. If you want to call that a goal or you want to call it your focus or whatever you want to call it, I call it a mission because when I get up in the morning, I got to have a mission. I got a buddy, Butch McCumber, up in Wisconsin, and he retired quite a few years before me, and he was a PJ, Air Force PJ. Amazing dude. But he's like, yeah, man, every day I get up, I know what I'm doing. He doesn't get up and like wander around with a cup of coffee in his hand and it's 11 o'clock and he's in his slippers. I mean, some people think that's cool. Dude, I don't
know how long I'd last.
Maybe you rock stars do that, but us other pros.
I'm already done with most of my day before you get in your barn with your coffee. And I know you're in there with your coffee, ain't you? What time you get in there? What time you forage?
Yesterday morning, I was in there about 6:45.
Oh yeah, I'm already. I do the same
I got
thing.
up at 5, but
I've already had 3 cups and I'm in the barn running around.
Yeah, but I had to do a 25-miler before that, so there's a lot of things that have to happen.
Yeah,
Here's
God.
the thing.
I did a 25-miler before.
Then I ran out of gas. I had to go get some.
Man, I wake up, I sleepwalk on my treadmill. I get 6 miles in. I do a 10K on my treadmill in my sleep.
No, I don't. I don't have a problem with you relaxing when it's time to relax. But even that, what is it that gets you to that point? If you haven't done anything, you're like, oh, I just got to take a break.
That's what I was going to say.
What are you taking?
What are you relaxing from?
And I don't every day get up and go forge.
Yeah.
I get up and I've got other things. We have Viking Tactics and
You make a list of things to do?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah, I think when you look at successful people, or maybe forgetful people, one of the two.
Whatever, yeah,
There's a couple things that we do. Yeah. So one is we make lists because otherwise you lose track of what stuff will fall off your plate, and you got to stay focused on that. I do a lot of praying.
Yeah.
Because
every
our
day,
country needs help. Our families, we want to make sure that they're squared away, and I'm very thankful for everything that I've been given as well. You've met my wife. My wife is amazing. I couldn't ask for a better person to be with me through this kind of ride we've had there. Cowgirl from South Dakota, so that's
took a cowgirl with
yeah,
you.
yeah. And the other thing is she's partially blind, so that's been very helpful to me.
She is not partially blind, y'all.
That's been helpful to me, but and I think you also have to have that. You got that mission focus, but you have to have people that are on your team. This isn't like fans; they're people,
participators.
Yeah. Now I've got buddies. I got a buddy named Tim Sellers out of North Carolina, and he sends me these texts, and I'll be out there on the road for 6 weeks at a time teaching people to shoot. Of course, I haven't done that
Not lately, huh?
Coronavirus thing, but I've been up to Iowa because for some reason coronavirus can't make it into Iowa. But he sends me these texts, and one day I got a text from him. He says, "Don't need nothing, just cheering from the sidelines."
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a powerful thing. And,
Yeah.
you know, to him, he just was saying, "Hey, I'm thinking about you. I don't need anything. I'm just thinking about you."
Yeah.
Well, it's our turn now to also do that to other folks. You know,
Yeah.
how can we help other people with whatever they're struggling with? I've got a young fella that he has the same name as you. And he's had some struggles, and he's new to being a Christian. And you know, here's a funny thing. I give one of my buddies a hard time because we called him the Jesus freak because he was the Jesus freak.
Yeah.
But that's really not a bad thing to be
No,
called.
I'll take it.
Well, this guy,
Somebody did.
he's talking to some dudes, and they said, "Well, you talking about God, you better call. Can I have Kyle Lamb call you?" So I call the dude, and we have this great conversation about his faith. And I think sometimes that's another thing in our business. Sometimes our faith is held against us, or you're held to a standard that's unrealistic because of your faith. Just
Because you profess it.
Right, because I'm a Christian doesn't mean I'm going to not screw up.
That's right.
That
Amen.
means that I'm going to be forgiven for
Yeah.
screwing up. I'm not trying to go into it
I know,
like that.
and I know how to go about it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they always say you can cuss like a sailor. Well, Army guys taught the sailors how to cuss, so we're pretty doggone good at it. But being able to talk to this young man, this isn't teaching somebody how to clear their corner in CQB.
Yeah.
This isn't teaching a guy how to shoot an AR-15 or an M4. Dude, this is like saving your soul stuff. So it's like, oh my goodness, what do I do? I got to talk to this kid. And he's looking up to me. He's like, you know, I look at you like kind of like a father figure. And I'm thinking,
Oh, Lord.
it's heavy. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's stuff like, okay, Lord, I need some help on this because this dude, this is a guy that I'm worried about. You know, I want to help him. I mean, I can't save the cat, but I can help to give him the right information. Like one of the things, you know, Dave Eubank,
Yeah.
Free Burma Rangers.
Yeah.
Do you know
Free Burma
him?
Ranger. Not personally, but I know
Okay.
exactly who you're talking about. Like,
So Free Burma Rangers.
everybody knows.
Yeah, the dude is,
Yeah,
he's a very good
he's
friend of mine.
infamous.
And he is
is he really? Yeah, good.
amazing. Former Ranger, former
Yeah.
SF guy, was a first group dude, and he lives in Thailand, and they go into Burma, and they've been in Iraq and not Afghanistan, but Syria and some other places. And one of the things they say in the Free Burma Rangers, and he always says this to me, he's like, "Love everybody," and I'm like, "No."
No. Can't do it.
Yeah, love everybody. You know, that's hard when you're looking at people that you really, you know, I see these douchebags on TV. Can I say douche?
You can say whatever you want.
When you see these Antifa folks and Black Lives Matter people that are out there, I mean, of course Black Lives Matter, but not the group.
Yeah,
You know,
not the organization.
Yeah, right. So they're full of hatred and they're bad people. But Dave's like, bro, love everybody. So now I'm telling this young kid, he's like, I've been struggling in this guy and he's kind of attacking me and he's a, you know, and I'm like, bro,
Love everybody.
love everybody. And I'm like, I said that. I can't believe I said that. You know what I'm saying? But really, when you, at the end of the day, if I have my mission focus and I'm doing what I need to do and I'm staying in my lane, don't worry about other people. Worry about your own stuff. You got enough crap going on in your own life. Love everybody. That sounds completely ridiculous. But if you put that in your brain and you're like, this guy is really pissing me off and man, I love him. It's going to change the way that you perceive people. And the sad thing is this dude, he's struggling, and that other guy is struggling even harder than him. The guy that he's having a hard time with. I'm like, dude, you ought to pray for that cat. And he's like, what? And I go, well, how do you think he's feeling? He doesn't feel like he's up to your standard, so he's going to try to slag you down. Dude, just don't worry about it. You know, you look at this. I laugh about Antifa because a platoon, at the most, a company of Rangers with axe handles. Dude, they could finish this.
The whole thing.
Yeah, and like law enforcement.
Across the country,
We were
not just
talking
in
to your brother
town.
that was here,
Matt.
Matt. And he says, yeah, just let us off the leash. You know, if you're law enforcement and you're allowed to do your job, then that we could settle that too. But I just look at these young Rangers and I think, oh man, just give them an axe handle. Remember you used to walk around the motor pool with an axe handle?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we had a one-legged stool we had to sit on. It's like, oh, this is fun. Yeah.
Love everybody.
I was in the 82nd.
Love everybody.
Yeah.
But really, it's true, though. You know what? Yeah. When you do that, when even just saying it, you encounter a confrontational situation. When you allow yourself to get to that place, you're able to articulate a lot better. You're able to control the situation a lot better because you're in a calmer place. Yeah. And generally, you can calm them. However, there are situations, and we've seen it as of lately. I've seen some of the best restraint on law enforcement officers I have ever experienced in my life. Yeah. When these guys are standing there and these people are blowing smoke in their face and yelling and screaming. It's the most disrespect I've ever seen. And you know what's sad is that guy had absolutely nothing to do with what it is they might be griping about or bitching about. And they're standing there doing this stuff. Yeah. It just absolutely, it's mind-boggling. That guy's got to be standing there going, love everybody. Staying calm.
Pop your head off like a zit.
Yeah.
Man, that'd be nice if I could
what
do that.
I'd give for an axe handle.
The thing is, on November 4th, if they're going to get off the leash, and when that happens, it's going to be game on.
Yeah. Well, we as a society, we should never, when you break the law, you break the law. It's just that simple. You can't excuse good or bad behavior with bad behavior. You just can't. That's what makes America great, is the fact that we have that thought process. Good and bad. You do bad, you get in trouble. There's consequences for actions. You know, you think about from a military perspective, and again, I'll let you go on about it, but you make a mistake out there, I mean, it's done. It's game over. Yeah. It ain't like you can walk up and go back and say, I'm sorry, I want a little time out. I need a break from this, you know. You don't get a set. You don't get that.
Yeah. You know, I do want to bring up one other thing, though, and this is kind of from left field, but I'm going to bring this up because this has been on my mind a little bit lately. In the military, we always prepared to fail. Think about that. So when you went through a briefing, pre-mission brief, what was one of the most important things? Contingencies. Contingencies are things that are going to go wrong, and you're going to have a plan for when you fail. Yeah. So medevac, we failed. Somebody got wounded, injured, dead, whatever. We got to have a plan. So always have that plan for failure. If this doesn't work quite right, then we got this. And that I never ever thought of it that way. I was reading a book by General Stockdale.
Was it an audio book? Or did you actually read it?
There is a lot of big words in this book. There was one word stumped me for days. It was like to-he or to-huh. Yeah. No, it's called Thoughts from a Philosophical Fighter Pilot.
That's MD.
Don't laugh at me, bro. Come on now. I'm going to reach over there. You already got a nice haircut, but I can knock the rest of that hair off your head. Come on now.
I'm not. No. I'm serious though. I mean, that sounds like a deep book.
No, it's good. And what it is, it's a series of speeches that he gave and articles he wrote. So the first half, the first third, I'm like, oh, this is pretty interesting. Second third, I'm like, this is dumb. And then the third part, I was like, well, I already know the answer to this. And I'm like, I learned something. Wow. Because if you read it and then I'm repeating, I know what he's going to say over here. That means I actually absorbed. And he brought up the thing about contingency. So Admiral Stockdale, you know who that is.
Oh, yeah.
He spent almost 7 years in a Vietnamese prison.
Yep.
That ain't cool. I don't care who you are. Johnny Rambo even would have said, ooh, that kind of hurts, in that, or however Johnny Rambo would say
7 years, yeah.
7 years. And he, and where I'm going with this, he talked a lot about Stoicism. Stoicism's the big kind of a buzzword today, and people want to talk about Seneca. I read Seneca, Stoicism, or what's the other guy? Marcus Aurelius. Okay, I'll buy that because he was actually a soldier, but you look at Seneca, he was like some rich dude that, whatever, bro. And then Nero makes him commit suicide and whatever. But they want to take Stoicism and say that replaces Christianity, and it doesn't. And if you listen to what General Stockdale says, he's a Christian, but he has beliefs in Stoicism, and Epictetus, I think, was the guy that he really studied. My point with all this is whenever I hear about Stoicism, then I go, okay, that's what this guy said, but how does that relate to me and my faith? Because I don't want to follow a fake God or something like that. But these guys were getting that somewhere, you know, and Epictetus, the guy that he studied, he was a crippled kid that was sold as a slave, and he ends up being bought by a guy that worked for Nero. Actually, he was the guy that ended up helping Nero commit suicide. So this guy was right there. He's crippled his whole life. He walked with a cane and all that. I'll buy that. That dude's going through this. He's been a slave. His leg is jacked up and whatever. But, you know, he obviously was looking at something higher, you know, when he was going through that. But in that book, he also talked about we're preparing for failure. And I think if every day we got up and we prepared for failure, because I don't think people do that. They're like, oh, well, this is going to be a success.
Yeah.
You're going to do what? What's your business plan here? You know? And if you go into every day, I'm not saying you're going to be a failure, but have a plan. You know, it's kind of like vigilance. What does the word vigilance mean to us? It means have a plan to kill every person you meet. Yeah. It really does.
It does.
It really does. If you walk into a room, if you're a cop or you're a military dude, you should walk into a room. I know you do this because I've seen you do it. You're like sizing up everybody. You see me and you're like, oh. No. I'm just kidding. No, but as military dudes, that's what we do.
Cops.
And anybody that's a fighter, you're going to walk in and be like, okay, that's the dude. That's the guy that's trouble right over there.
Yeah.
So having that vigilance to say, okay, people are out to get me. Like you're successful.
And the whole time you're doing that, you're creating a contingency.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you really are.
Yeah.
That's the guy, and that's the only other door.
Yeah.
But there's a window.
And like guys like you know, you're a successful dude, and some of us are cheering from the sidelines. I mean, every once in a while, I think 1 out of every 432 calls I've been keeping track, he answers the phone. The rest of the time, he just like, what? Oh, lamb, whatever.
This is not
no,
true.
But the point is, you're being attacked because you've elevated yourself. People look at you and they're pissed because you're successful.
Good looking.
I see we're thinking alike. Yeah. You're a Christian, veteran. You support law enforcement. Dude, you're a Second Amendment supporter.
Yeah. Everything that right now our society
you do is wrong compared to some other jokers out there. And they might be like, oh, yeah, good job, but they want you to fail, and you got to be prepared for that.
You know, you said that's a great. I want to expand on that because we are in a place. You're talking about a contingency. I'm afraid that there's people within our government. They don't have contingencies. Yeah. They have these ideas about how they think we could grow and live as a country. And I'm not picking on any particular person, but let's say this person says socialism is a great thing, but they don't have a contingency if it's not going to work. And we have contingencies for the way our current system works or doesn't. Yeah. You know, Joe Rogan does a stand-up, and he's a funny dude. He's even funnier when he's not doing stand-up than on his stand-up. And Jerry and I were talking. Jerry, my producer, we were talking one day, and he was like, man, have you seen the Joe Rogan stand-up talking about the Constitution? And I said, yeah, I think I have. And I had watched it, but I went back and watched it again. And it is funny because he's talking about from Benjamin Franklin. Or Thomas Jefferson, one of them. He said, Thomas Jefferson. He said, when Thomas Jefferson, he said, people was to come back alive today, he'd go, we were using muskets. Y'all are still using the same thing?
Yeah.
You know, the same shit that we wrote? Really, it is funny.
Yeah.
And I thought about it when Jerry told me, and I watched it, and I thought, it is funny. But then I thought, well, when they wrote that, so was the government. And people I don't know if they really understand that Constitution was established not for us to fight against, not as American citizens to fight against other countries. That's what we have the military for. It was for us to be able to protect ourselves in the event that our government became what we were living under prior to becoming the United States. But again, contingencies.
Yeah.
Even then, they had the foresight. Yeah. But I think there's people that are trying to create some of this new government that they don't have contingencies if their plan doesn't work. Instead, we'll end up like Venezuela.
Yeah, oh boy. Yeah, we're not going to do. We're not going to do that because
no, we're not. Because we are a great country.
Yeah, it's still out there doing their thing. And when our founding fathers wrote the Constitution, they had studied some of the great people in England and other countries, you know. So
they knew.
Yeah, Algernon Sidney. Do you know his story?
No.
So Algernon Sidney had his head lopped off by Charles II, I believe. And late 1600s, he wrote a book called Discourses in Government. Because of that book, they decided to chop his head off. Now, the book wasn't released yet. The book didn't get published until like 1703 or 1704. Our guys picked that up and said, here's a guy that was a smart dude. Charles II was Looney Tune. This book gets published after his death, and our founding fathers were smart enough to read that book and say, okay, what were his ideas that got him killed? Why were these crazy people trying to take over the country and do all this? John Locke's another one. Algernon Sidney, by the way, Algernon Sidney's book that was written in 1704, 1705, somewhere in there, I have an original copy.
No, you do not.
I do. I absolutely do. And I got the member of parliament that owned the book have his little crest inside the book, and it's when you pick this up and you smell it, it smells like freedom. Because you know, old books, when you open an old book, it's like, oh yeah. And just to feel what this guy was going through, he wasn't writing this book to become famous or get rich. He was writing this book because he wanted a better way of life for his people. And I would say that Algernon Sidney, if he saw what the writers of the Constitution wrote, you know, it wasn't, you know, and that's one of the things, you know, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and John Adams, they didn't write the Constitution.
No, that's right.
They wrote the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah.
So we've got those cats giving us feedback. You know, we got I think Thomas Jefferson was in France when we were writing the Constitution. Getting all this feedback from him and from all these other dudes, and the guy that's putting a lot of this down, Governor Morris, the guy that, he wasn't a governor, but that was his name, Governor Morris, you know, one-legged dude that lost his leg in a chariot, you know, accident or something, crazy lunatic kind of like you. He would have rode an ATV, but they didn't have him at the time there. So those guys studied all that, and they saw what had failed for thousands of years, and they made a government that is amazing. Just think about that. Think about how amazing what we have right now. It's just incredible.
It is incredible.
And guys like us, if we went back to 1750s and we joined the army, we joined the military, we'd be working with the Brits because it'd be the French and Indian War, we could never do anything because we're not of that blood. We're not, you know, aristocrats or whatever, just like George Washington wasn't. Of course, he's kind of an aristocrat, but he would never move beyond colonel in their military. So you could never be anything.
Yeah.
And now in our country, look what can happen.
Yeah.
You can never have a job, never have experience, and be president of the United States and have a name Obama. You know what I'm saying? You can be a total douchebag and end up being the president of our country. So that's awesome. You know what I'm saying? I thought of that because I was listening to a podcast on the way over here, and they were talking about how great Obama was, and I about wrecked my truck and ran over a couple little kids, and I'm just kidding about that. But anyway. Sorry,
you could have blamed him.
There, but
you could have blamed him.
I apologize. Yeah.
No, hey, we're going to take a quick break, and guys are going to come in and set up. We're going to play a few songs, and then we're going to come back, and I'm going to talk to Kyle about music, how it's impacted him, what he listened to when he was overseas, if he listened to any. And, in fact, he has a son that's involved in music and the arts. He's a photographer, all kinds of stuff. So I want to talk about that and more on Kyle Lamb and his company, VTech. Midnight, sitting here, can't see clear, wasting tears on you. Tick-tock, round the clock, on the dot, every thought consumes. This missing you, going round and round like this. Is it time to call it quits? Tell me I didn't hear you right. Tell me it's just another fight. We ain't going out like this. We ain't going out like this. Tell me what I'm supposed to do when I feel like alone here at home by the phone, hoping you will call. Yeah, I'll answer it and tell you that I love you, and baby, we can fall in love all over again, 'cause I don't want it to end like this. Tell me I didn't hear you right. Tell me it's just another fight. No, we ain't going out like this. We ain't going out like this. Tell me what I'm supposed to do when I feel like I'm losing you. No, we ain't going out like this. We ain't going out like this. Sometimes it just takes time. Oh, so baby, don't you draw that line. Tell me I didn't hear you right. Tell me it's just another fight. No, we ain't going out like this. We ain't going out like this. Tell me what I'm supposed to do when I feel like I'm losing you. No, we ain't going out like this. We ain't going out like this. I don't want to go out like this. Oh, yeah. Oh, boy. Man, that felt good, y'all.
Thank you.
This is on the new record. I've been saying this since we started these Fridays at 4, because we've only done these because of COVID, because of Corona. And I know that there's a lot of people still today that are struggling financially, and we're praying for y'all. If you're not struggling financially and you want to download a country record, we'd appreciate you buying ours. It is available anywhere you can buy music online. And if you want an actual CD, you can go on my website and buy the actual CD. They'll ship it out to you. You can also buy a face mask. I think that's funny. We now sell face masks. But you can buy them. And this song is on that record. I hate the taste of whiskey 'cause it burns and it don't get me drunk enough. Drowned out the sound of her walking out of the click of her suitcase closing shut. No, I don't look at pictures, all it does is make me miss her every day. Lord, I hate the taste of whiskey, but I drink it anyway. It runs like a river through my veins, kills my liver, wrecks my brain, makes me numb, but I still feel the pain. So I pour and pour, then pour some more to me in the bottle, hit the floor. Another shot in the dark won't stop this heartache. Lord, I hate the taste of whiskey, but I drink it anyway. There's teardrops in my coffee falling like a melancholy kind of rain. I'm sinking like a stone, man, I'm stoned like I'm high on her cocaine. Is it her or the bourbon got me hung over, hurting? I can't say. Lord, I hate the taste of whiskey, but I drink it anyway. It runs like a river through my veins, kills my liver, wrecks my brain, makes me numb, but I still feel the pain. So I pour and pour, then pour some more to me in the bottle, hit the floor. Now the shine in the dark won't stop this heartache. Lord, I hate the taste of whiskey, but I drink it anyway. Lord, I hate the taste of whiskey, but I drink it anyway. Taste of whiskey, but I drink it anyway. Well, there you go. Hope y'all enjoyed that. That is actually music that we're recording for our Fridays at 4. And y'all can check that out on YouTube. And if you don't get to see this, you can download the Craig Morgan Music and More podcast on iTunes and anywhere music can be downloaded. The podcast is available, so check it out. I'm back with Kyle. I want to talk about VTAC, your company. How long after you got out, or you actually were working on this prior to your getting out of the military?
Yeah, so I had some ideas for equipment I wanted to make, so I started doing that, and I was doing some classes for some folks.
But why did you have ideas about the equipment?
Because the equipment we had sucked.
That's right.
Yeah.
Contingency.
Yeah, contingency.
Trying to figure out how to make it better.
How can we make something better? And so there's a lot of things that go into that process. So for me, like, okay, I want it made in America. I want it something that actually makes your life easier as a soldier or a law enforcement guy or as a civilian that's carrying a gun or whatever, you know. And some of the stuff isn't really for that. We got beard oil. We got some other crazy stuff that we're doing. That's just so that you can look good, though, you know. You got to look good. You got to look good. My wife used to say that when she was racing barrels. She had this barrel horse, and she'd come out there, black horse, and like a white saddle blanket. I mean, and she's all duded up. She's looking good. And she's like, if you're going to be good, you got to look good. Yeah. And she was good. She was really good. But so we started making, I started the company with Melinda there a few years before I got out of the military. And then in 2006, our daughter graduated from high school. So my wife quit teaching school at that point and started doing VTAC full time. And she was kind of like sitting there. There wasn't a lot going on. And just kind of figuring out how we were going to run this business, running out of our garage and our house in Fayetteville, North Carolina, Fort Bragg there. And then by the time I retired, when I got out of the military, I had 1 year of classes booked. So I spent 42 weeks on the range my first year out of the military. To you guys that are shooters, that sounds awesome, but I couldn't pick up a cup of coffee. I had tendinitis so bad from all the shooting, because we don't just stand there. We actually show the guys shoot, how to do what we're doing and demonstrate that. So that got us really moving fast, because 42 weeks on the range, word spread. So we were doing mostly instruction and a little bit of sales on product. And now our sales are more than what our instruction is. So it's kind of flipped it around, but that's because we kind of grew our name there. And I think, you know, going back to what you had asked me earlier about when folks are separating from the military, if you think you're going to walk out of the military and put your hand out and say, I'm ready for that big paycheck you're going to give me because I'm a former military guy, it doesn't happen unless you're a SEAL. If you're a SEAL, they'll do that. You know, they'll do that for you. You know, Jack Carr.
Yes, and every one of these guys now are going to text me. Every one of the few that we know are going to text me and go, "Man, you guys are a bunch of jackasses."
Yeah, that's good. But, they're going to text me too. But Jack Carr and I were doing a thing for Black Rifle Coffee, and I said that we were doing the Veterans React. Did you see it?
Yes, I watched it. It's really
funny.
good.
And I said about the dog tags.
Yeah.
I said,
and you said,
you SEALs always wear dog tags. He goes, oh yeah, we always wore them. And I said, oh, and it's got your it's what do you call them? You've got one. Your
religious preference.
No, not your religion. Your
blood type. No, that ain't what it was.
No,
ain't what you said. You said you got your
producer. What is he you got? What's the guy that
manager? What did you say though?
You're
I'm
the
gonna have to look it up.
professional. I can't remember what the word was I used.
I just watched
It was
this.
pretty funny.
It was really funny.
We just kind of dropped.
Pull it
that
up.
one
Kyle Lamb.
Agent. I said,
Agent,
you got
yeah.
your agent's name on your dog tags. And he laughed and laughed. That dude is a great guy. And I don't know if you've read his books, but his books are amazing.
Really?
I'm not into fiction. Jack Carr's books they're amazing.
Yeah. When he was at a function we were at one time.
Yeah.
And I got a couple of his books there.
He's an awesome dude. And anyway, so where was I at? I got hit on the head somewhere along in that story. And Viking Tactics. Yeah. So we started this business.
Okay, neither one of us could remember. That's what's bad.
Yeah. What's your name? I don't know.
I need dog tag.
It's okay, Bill. I got your back, right?
Viking Tactics.
Yeah.
So you started in your garage, and she wasn't.
Yeah, we do consulting for companies like Leupold, Sig Sauer as well. We've helped them with some stuff. Great companies. We have designed products for other companies. We've got our own knives. We've got the nylon gear. All of our stuff except for one product is made in America. We have one product that's made in Canada, Northern America. And other than that, everything's made in America that we do. Now, some of the companies we've worked with, they've sent some stuff offshore, but like you look at Leupold, all their stuff's made right there.
Yeah.
Right here, I should say. So that's kind of where we went with that. And things have changed as we've went. We used to just do the shooting classes, and then I got kind of shamed into doing a leadership seminar. I'd written a couple books. I wrote, I forget the name of my books, but anyway, Green Eyes and Black Rifles and Stay in the Fight. One's a rifle book and one's a pistol book. And then I wrote a book called Leadership in the Shadows. Leadership in the Shadows.
That's the first book of yours I read, and it made me go back and read the other ones. And I haven't gone back and read the other ones yet, but I have them.
They're not on audio, so that's probably why.
That's why I didn't get to read those. Yeah. I do a lot of audiobooks. Hey, listen, everybody, seriously, Leadership in the Shadows. Go get the book.
And it is on audiobook, and I'm the guy that reads it.
I know. I know. That's what I said. That's what I got. It was the audiobook.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. I really did.
So can I ask you just honestly?
Yeah, ask me honestly. I don't have to answer honestly.
Did you get choked up when I read that book?
Did I get choked up?
Choked up.
I don't think choked up's the right word. I felt there was a particular situation in there.
Yeah.
I didn't get choked up, but I felt something.
So I was in a room, locked in a studio. Now you know what a studio's like.
Oh yeah.
I had no idea. We got the dude running this thing, recording it or whatever, and Lucas is there.
I know.
So I got my son there, and first of all, reading your own book, I thought, I wrote it. I can read it. Come on, bro. You know what I mean? It's easy. So one night, Melinda and I are in bed, and she goes, "Are you ready for this thing? I mean, we're paying a lot of money to go in there to the studio and get this thing recorded." And I go, "Yeah, I'm ready." And she goes, "Well, let me hear you read a chapter." We're in bed. So I read a chapter to her, gets done, and she goes, "Here," and hands me her phone. She recorded it when I read it.
Made you listen.
Made me listen. I'm like, "That's terrible." She goes, "You might want to practice." So you've been in my office. I'm standing in my office reading this book out loud and trying to get it right. And then I'm like, "Lucas, I'm going to need your help, man." So Lucas goes with me. And so Lucas is sitting right there, and I'm reading. I'm looking at him. He's like, and I read it again. I keep doing it until I get the right inflection and everything. Yep. You're a famous actor and all that, so you know how to do that. But I'm not. I like to get up and talk to people, but that's different than reading a book out loud. So I get to that part, and I was a wreck. And I finished reading about that. I'm reading about John Hale, who was my first team leader in the unit. Great man, great leader. And unfortunately, he committed suicide. Now, I don't talk about that in the book because the book came out and he killed himself later. But I'm talking about this guy, and I'm thinking back to this great man and what happened to this guy that put him in that state that he would commit suicide. And I barely made it through that last part of the chapter. And I mean, I was like, oh. And I get done, and I said, "Give me a minute, and I'll do it again."
No, that was the end.
And Lucas is like, "Nope, next chapter." And I'm like, whew. And I thought, okay, it meant, I mean, what? And I've had people email me, they're like, "Dude, You poured your heart out. And I'm like, whew, yeah, I told my wife this. I said, when I get up to give a speech about something, if I get to something that is normally emotional and I don't feel that, I'm never going to get up and talk about that again. Because if you get up there and you're just regurgitating words, I don't memorize anything. You know that. You've seen me in action. You never know where I'm going when I get up to talk, right? So a lot of times I get that inspiration from, up there, you and I have had some very, we've had some pretty close talks about stuff. And, seeing you and that inspires me. Or like Tom Davin, we've done some stuff with him. I see him and I'm inspired by this or some veterans that are there or whatever it might be. But,
I don't think you ever will, though. That's your character. I think, you have a human, and I'm not just, tooting your horn, so to speak. But,
whoa. Yeah.
But seriously, you have that character. And that's why at the beginning of this thing, I tell everybody, these podcasts that I'm doing, I'm not having somebody on my podcast just to have them on here. I only want people like that. Yeah. I only want people that I know have that emotion. You said something at the beginning, Black Lives Matter. Yes, they do. Not the organization, but the people. Yeah. And that's who we are. We care. We're genuine. And I don't think you'll ever lose that. But I do know what you're saying. Sometimes you say something a lot. And after repetition, you go, I just did that and it didn't strike me the way it did yesterday. So I like that, and you said that I don't need to say that because you need to be passionate, and you are, and I love that. When you speak, and like you said, I have seen it, your humor, these are things that are important. You relate to people. You've done things that most people have only seen in the movies, and yet at the same time, you're the same guy who will come out here and help somebody change a tire, and you're pounding steel. You know what I mean?
Well, but the thing that some people don't remember when they get into a position that some people would say we're in a certain position. Oh yeah, you're this guy.
That's right. They try to put us in a box or something.
If you as that person, if you go, I was in the Army, I was in the special mission unit, I did all this stuff. If you think that makes you better than anybody in America, you're full of crap, dude.
Yeah, I agree.
You're drinking your own bathwater, and that's not good for you. You know what I'm saying? So you need to get past that. And I look at every person that I meet, and I'm honest with them. I want them to be successful. I'm talking to a cop. What happens when I talk to a cop? They tell me a story, and I'm like, man, I wish I could have been there. Yeah. Their war stories are just as good as mine, except their war stories are in Portland or Seattle or Dixon, Tennessee or whatever. Yep. So we're all the same kind of person. And I think the other thing is you sometimes you forget who the real tough guys in America are. And I'm going to tell you, it's not law enforcement and military. It's the working men and women that are out there.
Yes, sir.
I went to do you know what an arborist is?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't have a clue. I'm like, arborist.
Yeah, I have a friend, female, Fred's wife. She's an arborist.
So I'm looking for my first squad leader from the 82nd, Jack W. Felts. My buddy goes, just type it in, see if you Google him and see what happens. I'm still in the military. This buddy of mine, Bill Lutz at DEA, said, so who was inspirational to you in leadership? And I said, these guys. And he goes, when's the last time you talked to Sergeant Felts then? I go, I don't know, 1987 or something when he left the military. Well, you know where he's at? And I said, I have no idea, but I think he was in New York. I searched Jack W. Felts, and it comes up National Arborist Society. There's a number. And I'm like, arborist, he must drill holes or something. I don't know. So I call him up, and I leave a message.
Come on.
I did. I called him up from the unit.
Was it the right guy?
Yeah, right dude. I call him up. Well, it's Jack W. Felts. Yeah. How did I know it was Jack W. Felts? Pre-jump. Remember that? You go through pre-jump, and they call your name. Sergeant Jack W. Felts. One each, whatever you would say. Yeah. So airborne or whatever you guys, I don't know what you guys said,
airborne,
like yeah, whatever.
Range lead the way.
Yeah, there we go. So call him up. I leave a message. Yeah, this is Kyle Lamb. I used to work with a guy named Jack Felts. If this is the Jack Felts that it is, call me at this number at work. My phone rings in my office, and it does an off-post ring, and I'm like, off-post. Pick it up. He goes, how did you find me? That's what he says. He's like, man, I've been watching what you've been doing. I'm so proud of you and all this stuff. I'm like, That's amazing. This guy was, he's like 10 foot tall and bulletproof, the guy that I'm looking up to.
Oh, that's awesome.
He ends up coming to my retirement, and I gave out 5 coins at my retirement. So I gave out one to Jack W. Feltz. I gave out one to Ray Comley, who was my first real friend at 5th Special Forces Group. You may have met him. I don't know. He still lives up here in Kentucky, Tennessee there, whichever part of the line you're on.
Yeah.
I gave one to John Hale, who was my first team leader. I gave one to a guy named Mike Haugen, who was a warrant officer that was my boss when I was in first group, and I gave one to my son.
Oh.
And it was a very special thing, So years later, Jack says, hey, I want you to come up and speak to my folks up here. Okay, what do you got going? A bunch of linemen. Not like linemen for a football team. And when they say linemen, that means line men and women.
Yeah, yeah.
I showed up to speak at this thing, and remember how I said I walk in the room and I size everything up? I was found wanting. Dude, even the women there, they were way tougher than I'm ever going to be. And I'm not saying they were ugly or big. Or they were just tough gals, On the breaks, they're out there smoking Camel Straights. And, we were slinging a line over here. That's the women talking. And I thought, okay, in America, we try to elevate ourselves like we're something special. Those dudes could have broke my neck and been like, oh, that guy's not very strong, They're just tough people. And I a lot of times when I go back to South Dakota, I see these farmers and ranchers, and I think, holy cow. I mean, that's Americana right there. Now, of course, some of those folks join the military as well,
but you're right, though.
They're tough folks, man. They're working every day of their life.
Middle America, man.
It's awesome.
It's who we are.
Oh, yeah.
It's what our country really is.
Yeah.
That's funny. You're talking about looking up your old buddy. So I have a group text, which to me, I hate those worse than anything in the world, especially this one. But I love it at the same time. And it's it's our entire team from Panama from 1989.
Holy cow.
And we have literally, up to this point, found everyone. And on the group text yesterday, and I'd done had a bottle of wine at this point, and by 8 o'clock I was out. I was already on my way to getting up at 2. I mean, I was going to go down and be back up at 2, I kind of figured. 10 minutes. But it was the coolest thing in the world, and I say that because what you said when you got your buddy, how did you find me? All of these guys, I mean, and it's really funny, like the conversation. How'd you connect? I found him on Facebook. Send me an invite for this person. I'm in Panama. I'm coming to the reunion. We're doing the Panama reunion. Granted, it's still there. Everyone is asleep. I'm not asleep. I was fed up. I can't read those words. I mean, I could, but my wife sees this, might see this. Well, that may be a good thing, talking about how everything has changed. I mean, it's just, and you sit there. I read them this morning. I read the entire chain and going, that's freaking awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
17 guys that I worked with in 1989. And a lot of them in 1990, 1991. And then here they are. Some of them I haven't talked to since 89.
So let me ask you, can I ask you a question?
Yeah. This scares me.
Do you think we should have mandatory military service or mandatory national service in America?
Do I think we should, or do I think it would be a good thing? Two different questions. I think it would be a great thing. I think if we had mandatory 24-month service, and I think you got to do at least 24. 12 don't give you enough.
Yeah.
Because the time you enroll basic AIT and any additional training, airborne, ranger school. I mean, heck, you can stay in school for 2 years.
Yeah.
But I think if we did have that, if we had mandatory military, I think what we're seeing in Seattle, I think what we're seeing in Utah, all these places around the country, I don't think we'd be seeing it.
Yeah, and
because I think they would have a greater appreciation for how fortunate we are in this country, and less. Man, half those kids out there doing that crap have no idea.
Well, and I think what's important about that, why would there be less of that? And the reason I think there would be less is because every single person that you would come into contact with in America, every person
Have that training.
you would have something in common with them.
Oh, that's a fact.
And right now, we don't, you go to some Antifa person, other than, like they arrested 20 people the other day and 13 of them were school teachers.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So I guess I'm a teacher, so we got that in common. But the bottom line is, if you rolled up wherever and you met somebody, you could say, hey, what outfit were you with?
Yeah.
Bam, right there, there's a connection.
No matter what side.
I don't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
That's a
and
great
I wish
point.
that we had that. I think that mandatory service, and it doesn't have to be military, even though I think every person could serve in the military at some capacity. I don't care, the days of having flat feet and all that crap gets you out of it.
Yeah,
Going to Canada or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think that's come on, man.
Yeah.
So anyway,
we were talking about, I was doing a movie up in Canada, and while we were up there, I was amazed. I seen more American flags flown up there than I did at home before I left to go up there.
I got to tell you, I saw a Biden, actually I didn't see it. Melinda saw it. I was driving. I saw one, or she saw one.
You saw one? A Biden?
One.
A
No,
Biden?
that's the only. Now this, I'm not trying to be smart aleck here, but in Tennessee, so we go from where we live down to Linden, over to Columbia, the area we run,
Yeah.
over to Dixon, into Nashville. We drive all the way up to Virginia where my daughter is stationed, and all the way back. We saw some Bernie stickers. We never saw one Biden sticker, not one Biden sign. We saw Trump stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
But we were in Columbia the other day. We're driving. Melinda goes, oh, I saw Biden. And I'm like, I want to stop and take a picture. So I'm like, it's almost like it doesn't exist.
It's like a Sasquatch.
Yeah. But he's going to crush it, because now he's got an African-American VP that's from Jamaica and India.
I don't know.
I'm from South Dakota.
Yeah.
I can't cipher that.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
But anyway, I just thought it was interesting that I
interesting.
saw one sign.
It is
So,
interesting.
We'll see what happens.
I do agree with what you said. I think there would be, and that's probably a better observation. Quite honestly, I hate to give you that one, but that's true. You would instantly. Well, that's what we do in the military. I have a veterans meeting here once a month. We haven't had them since COVID, but we're about to have our next meeting. It's just guys from. We had a Vietnam veteran come in one day.
I must have missed the invite on that.
No, you've been invited a few times.
No, yeah. Oh, come on now.
I swear.
Oh, that's right. I got my Craig blocker on.
That's what it is. You talk about me. Oh, that's Craig. Oh, yeah, can't answer that one. That's what really happened. But I want to tell you this story because you'll appreciate this because you're old. So this Vietnam veteran.
It's all right. You're
going to hit me before it's over. I'm just prepared, though. I'm ready for it with my Colonel haircut.
You look good. He walked in. Now, I got to tell you, he looked like a hipster when he walked in, didn't he?
Oh, my
His
God.
pants, I'm telling you right now, if I took a credit card and I lubed it up with grease, I could not get it in the pocket of his britches.
That is not true. My hands are in my pockets now.
Get your hands out of your pockets.
We're sitting in this meeting, and all these younger veterans, and we cover the gamut from, again, not Vietnam, but from Panama forward, Afghanistan, Iraq, even some other places. Got a couple group guys, and this old vet was sitting there, and we, it was his first visit, so we asked him to tell us a little bit about his story. Where'd you serve? He said Vietnam and such, and man, instantly all these younger guys were like, "Thank you," and he got real upset. Like almost emotional. He's like, "Don't thank me. I didn't want that." And in fact, he went like for 20 minutes this rant. And one of my guys, Ben, who's like the quietest guy, SF medic, just he's the most mellow, calm, and he just out of the blue, Ben leans over and says, "Well, if it weren't for you, we'd have went through what you went through." And it was like everybody went. Guys were tearing up, and you know how it is. You got men's men.
That gets me right now.
It hammered me, man, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And the old guy said, "You're welcome." And it was like, "Holy shit, man! This guy, what he went through," and Ben wrapped it all up in that one little sentence. If you hadn't went through what you went through, we would be. So thank you.
Yeah.
And it was pretty amazing.
And that's
moment.
why we get these groups together, because there's a dude in your group that's struggling, and you got to be there when they're having that problem. You got to be there. And I don't know when it's going to be. We can't save everybody, but we got to be there when we have a chance.
And
That was your
sometimes it's
chance.
just like you said, that phone call.
Yeah.
Hey, just checking in. Hey,
Yeah.
got you back.
Yeah.
And you're right. We can't do them all. I know. I see a lot of these social media things, and I'm not kicking anybody. I'm really not, because I know they're bringing awareness. I guess that's the most important thing. I have to appreciate the fact that they are bringing some awareness. But I'm going to do 22 push-ups a day for that, and I get it. I respect that. But for me, it's like the guy doing push-ups on Facebook ain't as important as the guy just checking in on his buddy. And we have to do that. And our society needs to be doing a better job. That's why I love this Operation Finally Home organization I work with. They don't just go build a house for the veteran. They bring the veteran in and say, hey, look, we're going to work with you. We're going to do this. We're going to build a house. But here's what you're going to do.
Yeah. Mission. Have a mission.
Yeah. And they get the community involved. So by the time that house is done, man, the community and that veteran are integrated and they become. And I say all of this because I want to go back to what you said. If every one of us served, if the guy who's over here protesting was standing in front of a cop and the cop said, hey, who'd you serve with? It might be a little less confrontation because they do have that to share. I just hate that where we're at, especially like with Black Lives Matters. I'm like you. I don't support the organization. I absolutely support the people.
Of course.
We all do.
Yeah,
I mean, any decent human is going to support, equal rights, human rights, and all of the things that we talk about. And I think back on it, and I was looking at all my buddies, these lists, and there's a couple black guys that were in our unit. And it's funny because I looked at it and I go, I never looked at those guys as black guys.
No.
I never seen them as black guys.
It's funny because some people ask me, well, how was racism in the military? And I go, what are you talking about?
Yeah. That's what I said.
Well, how did you deal when you had this kind or this kind? And I'm like, no, they were my teammates.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Well, when they made the team, they were called teammate. I never went, hey, black teammate, hey, white teammate, hey, Mexican or Puerto Rican or whatever, or Asian dude. No, it's like, that's your teammate. That doesn't mean that we're going to give them a break. That means that we love them and they're going to have my back when I go left, they're going right. They got my back. They're not going,
it's happening.
I ain't going right because that's a white dude.
Yeah.
It ain't happening.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I seen that. And one of the guys that's in our group he kind of goes left. And I kind of go a little more right. But, man, it's amazing. I love talking to him.
Yeah.
I love that guy. I mean, I love him like a brother.
Yeah, yeah.
And that'll never change no matter. And, I got another friend, a mutual friend, who's mad at me right now. And I texted him the other day, and he won't text me back. But I texted him, I told him, you're not going to make me so mad that I'm not going to say I love you.
Yeah.
I'm always going to love you, no matter what you say
when
or
we
do.
get done, you'll have to tell me who it is, and I'll start.
You know who it
too.
is. But, I mean, I love him, and I love his wife, and I will never stop loving him, no matter how mad he might get at me. And that's human. I think that's human nature. We're going to make mistakes.
I think another thing we have to look out for, though, is when somebody upsets you in this group, you got to let them walk. I wrote a thing about this the other day. You got to let them walk off into that dust storm, but then be standing right there when they walk back out.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna piss you off. They're gonna say stuff that's mean about you or your family or how you wear your pants or whatever it might be. But eventually that person's gonna come back, and you got to be there. So don't
and we don't know where they're at.
Yeah. And it's us
thing.
sometimes.
I don't know what's going on in his life. There could be more to what's happening. And same with me. Unfortunately, a lot of my life is public. So people know my heartache, which quite honestly makes it a little more difficult to deal with sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'd rather people just not know.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Yeah.
But man, that's gonna be the new motto, and we'll give the credit where credit is due. Love everybody. I love you.
I love you too, brother.
I'm just saying that, and I will. We got to do that, even with the people
man.
that
It makes a big difference.
Yeah.
It gives you. It doesn't mean you're weak.
No, you're right.
It has nothing to do with that. You look at the strongest people in history, and they had no problem saying that or showing that. And so why would we not look at those people and say, man, I want those people to be, I want them to come around. Like these Antifa people, they're hard to love because they're confused for one reason. They're called Antifa, anti-fascist, and they're actually fascists. Yeah. So how do they, I don't understand how they got to have some confusion going on in their worlds,
how can you be, your name is anti-fascist and you're fascist.
It's kind of ridiculous, but.
It is. Well, dude, I do love you, and I can't thank you enough. Hey, listen, everybody, Google Kyle Lamb. Get his books, and I'm not just telling you to because he don't need that as much as you'll appreciate it when you read them. Go ahead.
Can I talk about Stay in the Fight Foundation real quick?
Oh, I want you to. Have we already shown the? Have we shown this? Okay, so I'm gonna cut away. We're not gonna take a break. We're gonna keep talking. But while we start this, I want you to look at some of the things I talked earlier about you pounding steel. Yeah, I mean, I got all the time in the world. I just didn't want you to have to feel like, I didn't want you to stay any longer around my pants than you had to.
I can't help but stare. Looks like two puppies fighting
So
over
right now they're looking at Nice hearing you talk about two puppies. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my
So
goodness.
I talked about you pounding steel. You're making these things, but you haven't really, this isn't something that you put on your website at VTAC. You're not selling these things.
No. This isn't.
So talk about what you are doing with them.
So I'm going to go back a couple years.
Yeah.
My wife hurt her back. So she picked up our granddaughter. She's like, oh, what's up with my back? And then it got progressively worse. It was a Thursday. We came back from Gettysburg. We went up there to do a battlefield tour. And I met with this writer, Jeff Shera. Great time. But Melinda couldn't. She always walks me into the dirt, And she's like, yeah, I don't really feel like walking. I'm thinking, whoa. And we were staying in this old house in downtown Gettysburg there. And you had to walk up steps. So she's like, hey, could you go down? And I'm like, what? Go, huh? It doesn't, you've met my wife.
Yeah.
She's a tough gal, So that's on a Thursday. We come home Saturday night. We're staying in our cabin down in Linden. Sunday morning, I wake up, reach over, she's not in bed. I go out to get a cup of coffee, and I'm like, So I walk into the guest bedroom, and she looks like she's been gut shot. She's laid up on the covers, and I touch her back, and she's ice cold. And I'm like, Melinda, are you all right? And she goes, can you take me to the emergency room? Roger that. So I go back to get some shorts on, and by the time I walk out, she's gone. I look out, she's sitting in the car, kind of leaned over. I go out and get in her truck, and we drive down to the emergency room. I take her in there, and they go, what's the pain level? She goes, 1 out of 10? And they go, yeah. And she goes, 10. Now, when she was having a baby, they asked her, and she said, 1, maybe 2.
Wow.
She's at a 10, dude. So they give her some shots, and she can't stand upright, can't get out of there. And the nurse there, this lady was just amazing. She comes to me, and she says, look at me. On Monday, you go to Columbia, you walk in there, and you don't leave until they take care of your wife. They'll take you in. You just go there. You don't have an appointment. You show up. They will take care of her. Roger that. So I head in there. I walk up, and Melinda's like hunched over there. She can't stand up. So we made it through the weekend. They said, we can't take you today, but whoa, just a minute, honey. We'll take care of you. They get her in there. They put her in the doctor's office, and my wife's in tears, just having to go get an x-ray and all this stuff. And the doctor comes in, and he does the checks to see if she's got any feeling. And he's like, the soonest I can get you in for surgery is 1 week from today. And I'm like, back surgery? That's a big deal. You don't just jump into back surgery. And I said, Doc. And he goes, listen to me. And he's hitting, and she doesn't have any reaction. He's like, if we don't fix this now, she may have permanent damage. I'm like, whoa, So she takes the drugs they give her for 1 week. 1 week. And, oxycodone or whatever. She takes that, and she's like a different person. And Lucas and I are like, oh, what do we do, Comes out of that, goes in for surgery that next Monday, and we go in for the surgery and walk in there. They get her all gussied up to go in, and they go, oh, your insurance wasn't approved, so we're not doing the surgery. And I'm like, stop. So I go down to the truck, and I get a checkbook, and I come up, and I write a check for her surgery. And thank goodness we had enough money to do that. Yeah. Wrote a check for her surgery. She goes in, has surgery. It was worse than they thought. 1 hour after surgery, she's walking and she's pain-free.
What?
That's crazy, right? So for the next 2 months, I'm dealing with a woman that I have no idea who she is. That 1 week of being on oxycodone jacked her up so bad. And my wife is very religious, and she was having some dark times, you know?
Wow.
So get all through this, and I'm not trying to, I don't want sympathy. I'm just saying this is what led us to this. So Melinda tells me, she says, I didn't like that. And I didn't like that they weren't going to take care of me. And how do you think that would have been if we were still in the military? We would have went home, because we wouldn't have had a checkbook to pull out and write a check for the surgery. Eventually, it was like 2 years later, we got paid back or whatever. But and Melinda was, healed up after that. But she said, we need to help people. I'm like, yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, I've always tried to help people. She goes, no, we're gonna start an organization to help people.
Wow.
And I go, well, I ain't in. And she goes, well, what do you mean by that? And I said, I've had it up to here with veterans organizations, and I'm not. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep, absolutely.
And she goes, this ain't a veterans organization. And I said, okay, well, tell me about it. And she goes, every penny that we take in goes to help somebody. And I'm like, I'm still listening. And she goes, and we help anybody that's a human. You don't have to be military, law enforcement. A human being, we're going to help you out. So I'm like, okay, well, then what are we going to do? She goes, well, I like when you always say stay in the fight, because that motivates people. 2 things I say that motivate people: stay in the fight and God bless America. 2 things that I think they're all right. So we call it the Stay in the Fight Foundation. And like I said, every bit of it goes towards helping people like that. So around this area where we live, we've helped women that, and when you fill out the paperwork, it says, the first question is, do you have a job? If you don't have a job, we're not where you go. If you have a job and you have something that has got in your way of success, it could be going to the doctor and you can't afford to pay, that little bit that you got to pay to get the treatment there, the whatever it's called. We both can't remember that one either.
Your portion, what's that called? No, when you pay your doctor. Deductible.
Luckily, we got one guy that's
Producer.
he's under 50.
Jerry.
Yeah, he's
your Rolodex.
Yeah. So we're not very smart dudes here, but our heart is in a good place, right? As I said about Ilhan Omar, I said, well, bless her heart.
Yeah, we work hard.
Yeah. So these people come to us and they go, I got a job and I can't pay my rent because this happened. I've got kids. I'm a single mom, or I'm a whatever it is. And just to give you an example, that's happened to some mothers. It's happened to some fathers. We had an SF guy that's a friend of mine, and he didn't come to us. I was out training, and he's suffering severe TBI. He's not doing well, You wouldn't, when you talk to him, you wouldn't really know that. But when you're like, what is this? And he looks at it and he goes, I forget what you call that thing.
Wow.
Well, you know what I mean? We have that, but that's because we're senile. But he had it because his brain got juggled around a little bit there. So when he went in for TBI,
review?
Yeah, whatever, to review and then to get taken care of.
Right.
They're saying, well, you need this, you need this, you need this. Well, here's this supplement. And the Army says, we won't pay for that supplement. But he needs that. Well, they won't pay for it. So I'm listening to this. I'm driving to the range with this guy, and I'm like, they won't pay for the supplement. Yeah, I'm trying to get Green Beret Foundation to do it, which they're a great organization too, but they got a lot of steps to go through to get approved. And I said, So I called Melinda. I go, hey, my buddy's got this. She knows the guy, and she goes, yeah, just tell him to send us a receipt. So he sends the receipt or the invoice for this medication that he needs. Or it's not a medication; it's a supplement, and that happens in one day.
Yeah.
So we're able to help this guy. So anyway, I started forging knives and tomahawks. I started just making tomahawks because it's kind of the Viking thing to do. It's kind of cool, doing it with my son, and it's just awesome. And somebody looked at one, they go, well, how much for one of these? And I go, not for sale. I mean, I don't know what to tell them. And I'm like, I don't want to, I took an order. So this fella calls me from Indiana, and he goes, yeah, our buddy is leaving the SWAT team, and we want to get him one of them. We want to place an order. I'm like, oh, okay. And I got off the phone. I'm like, oh man, no. So he calls me back up. He goes, we end up, we don't need that. And I'm like, oh, good. And then 2 days later, he calls me back up and he goes, no, you know what? We do need that. And I said, well, I have a rule. I don't take orders. And he goes, but wait a minute. I said, no. I had a cop call me and I took an order and I should have never done that. And I'm never going to do it again. It's the same dude that I took the order from.
Yeah.
I said, I ain't doing it. I said, I'll make some Tomahawks and then you can look at them and whatever one you want. You can make a donation to Stay in the Fight Foundation and you might get a parting gift, in your gift bag there or whatever. So I'm talking to Fred Eichler, our buddy,
Yep.
he's killed everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
With a bow.
Yeah. Tyrannosaurus Rex. I mean,
I think he was the guy that got Sasquatch.
Yeah. He definitely stuck him. Yeah. He, outstanding dude.
Yeah.
And he and I are very, very good friends. And I'm telling him, I sent him a picture. He's like, I want one. And I go, you can't have one. And it just pissed him off. And he goes, my phone rings. He's like, what are you talking about? And I go, dude, I'm just making these for fun, but I'm thinking about doing this. And he goes, well, the very first one that you let out of your forge, I want it. He goes, I will donate to Stay in the Fight Foundation. And I'll promote it and I'll do all this stuff. So that one I showed you, there's one that's got
It's
a real,
actually his.
that's
Is that
his.
the one with the inlay?
No.
Okay, good.
He hasn't seen that one.
Well,
the inlay one is still up for grabs.
We're making a nice donation to
Oh, good. That'd
Stay
be
in the
awesome.
Fight for
Yeah.
that one.
So anyway, that's what's going to happen with those. You don't find me, I'll find you. I don't care what you want. I really don't care. I'm going to do what makes my brain not hurt.
Yeah.
And I'm going to pound on that steel. And if something comes out good and you're like, wow, that's kind of neat. I made what a spontoon is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I made
Forged it?
a spontoon, like with
Yeah.
a big arrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I make this thing. It's about this long. It's wicked looking. I don't have that with me, but I couldn't bring it in my truck. It was too long. I'd have to put one of them signs on the back, the red signs hanging off there. So I make that, and my buddy calls me from Michigan, and he's an Indian bro, like feather wearing Indian.
Yeah.
Half Indian there. And he says, dude, that stuff is cool that you're making. He goes, man, if you ever make a spontoon, I want that thing. And I'm like, hold your thought, bro. I literally made it 2 days before
It was meant to be.
It's
yeah.
meant to be for
Yeah.
that dude right there.
Yeah.
This guy's name is Sean, and he's his Indian name is Shaniqua. That's what I call him. Or Shantae, if he's out there, singing rap or something. But super good dude, just retired from the military. Spent most of his time as a reserve guy. But so it's just funny how this kind of all happens. I had a guy the other day call me from down the road, and he says, I didn't know you lived here, but I heard one of your podcasts, and you mentioned where you live. And I thought, got this stalker dude, right? So what do you do? We're conversing on email, and he goes, yeah, I work at a machine shop that we fix these big hammer machines, like big hammer machines.
Oh, yeah.
Like 600-ton hammer.
Oh,
they're
my
3
gosh,
stories
yeah.
tall. They do this crazy stuff. And I thought, man, I kind of like to meet this dude and meet this guy as big as a house. Great guy. Grew up in that area. His wife grew up in that area as well. So he comes over first time he met me, and he walked into my shop. And I just recently moved my shop from our barn, that big brown barn. We actually built a forging shop.
An actual.
And I was still in the big barn, and he walks in and he starts looking at the knives and everything, and he's like, About 4 or 5 days later, he goes, that I made a knife called the Patriot for VTAC. It's a swoopy blade. You've probably seen it. I forged one just like that, and it come out really nice. And my buddy cut down a tree 35 years ago and has had that black walnut in his barn.
Wow.
Sent me that black walnut. I made a knife for him. I've actually got that knife over there. This guy calls me up and he goes, that Patriot knife that you forged, I want to buy that from you. And I said, it's not for sale. And he goes, well, how could I get a knife like that? And I said, if you'd make a sizable contribution to the Stay in the Fight Foundation, you might be able to get that knife. And the next day he drove over, and dude, it's just awesome. I mean, I don't care about those knives. I mean, once I'm done with it, I've got what I wanted out of them.
That's good. Yeah.
I really don't care. I mean, it'd be nice if it went to somebody that was like, wow, this is pretty cool. But it's not, I'm not doing it. I don't know. Maybe that sounds weird, but
I get it.
I got my mileage out of it by that time.
Yeah.
So he, he wrote a check out to Stay in the Fight Foundation. I was like, well, this could be awesome, you know, and now I'll get that one out to Fred. And
so the more money we raise for Stay in the Fight, the more you'll be able to help them people.
Yeah, whoever it is that
humans.
needs help. You know, we talked to a gal, her husband, or we actually talked to her friend. This lady's husband has been through the mill with, I think he has COVID now, but he also had to have some body parts removed because of being a diabetic, and and she wants to take some time off from being a school teacher, which right now I guess is a good time, but she can't do that because she can't afford to take time off because he's in the hospital or whatever.
Right.
So we haven't got this all worked out yet, but somebody like that, why would you not, you know, not help that person out a little bit? It's just a weird circumstance, but that's what it's for, you know. And I think the reason the veterans organizations bothered me was because I would go and I'd get talked into doing something for a veterans organization. Then I went there, I'm like, dude, I didn't even want to look at the stage. I was so embarrassed for these people.
Yeah.
And I kind of told Melinda, I said, I can't do this. I just can't. I see this guy who's all jacked up, whether it's mentally or physically, and they bring him up there and they make a big deal about it. And then this dude goes back to his crappy life and they take all this money in and he never sees any of it.
Yeah.
He doesn't get anybody to help him, to call him, to sit down with him, to help him get a job, to get him rehabilitated, none of that stuff. And so that's when I started being like, yeah, I'm not helping with that. Like, you know, taking veterans hunting, I think that's awesome. Take a veteran hunting. But when you're done hunting with them, let's take him to church, and then let's take him out and get him a job, and then let's make sure his family's squared away. If you're just taking him hunting and then you forget about him, I got a problem with that.
Yeah, you and me both.
I really do. That's how I met Charlie Daniels. God rest his fiddle playing.
American soul.
Oh my goodness. What a
Great American.
What a good dude. I get a call from his manager there, Dave Corlew.
Yep.
Calls me up. He goes, "This is Dave Corlew from CDB." And I'm thinking, man, I'm not really into those drugs that you take to make your joints stop hurting. Because I'm thinking CDB, Charlie Daniels Band, but he ain't from Charlie Daniels Band,
Yeah.
you know. But I'm thinking, whatever. So we were talking. He goes, "Yeah, I heard you spoke at this church over there in Leapers Fork, and we'd like to have you come possibly speak at this thing we got going, but we got to meet you first." And I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm like, who is this joker? You know, he's a nice guy, but what's the deal? I mean, he's a super nice guy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So we get towards the end of the conversation. I go, "Yeah, I'll meet you, whatever you want to do." And he goes, "All right, well, Charlie's got to meet you." And I go, "Charlie?" And he goes, "Yeah, Charlie Daniels Band." And I'm like, it was CDB. He's not trying to sell me some drugs, you know? And I go, "Charlie Daniels? Dude, I'm in. I mean, I'm in."
Yeah.
So I said, "Well, would he do a podcast?" He goes, "Yeah, he'll do a podcast." And I went, "Oh, Charlie Daniels will come on my podcast, you know?" I had another famous guy, Craig Morgan, was on my podcast as well. So Charlie Daniels, I drive out there to meet him, and I'm normally not a starstruck dude, but it was awesome. My
Yeah.
dog tried to bite Charlie Daniels. Have a dog trigger in my truck. He goes, "Yeah, I just walked by that truck, and that blue heeler just about got me." And I'm like, "Ooh."
Yeah.
Sorry,
Good thing
bro,
he didn't
you know?
get a hold.
So Lucas came out there, Melinda came out there, and we all met Charlie, and it was awesome. And then I heard about, at that point, I started to hear about Journey Home Foundation.
Yeah.
They're doing the right thing. They're actually helping dudes and dudettes get what they need to be back in the mix when they come back to the U.S. or they get out of the military or whatever. I love what they're doing, so I have no problem helping them. So now we're just a little bit more picky about who we help. And
Yeah, we're the same way. You have to be. I mean, you don't. I'd rather do a lot for fewer than fewer for more.
yeah,
You know, especially when you do have the opportunity to know some of these organizations, and Charlie's is a great one. You know, the Armed Services YMCA, I didn't know it existed.
yeah.
And when I found out, I thought, man, that's a great what they're doing for lower enlisted. Like you're talking about, they'll fly kids home. And now this, with COVID, it's kind of jacked things up. So their kids can't leave, like for Alaska, they can't leave Fairbanks. They'll fly the family to Fairbanks to be with the kids.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty cool, some of the stuff they do, and help them at Christmas. And, it's a long term. It's not just, hey, here, thank you, and then move to the next guy. It's, they think about these people. Like I said, with Operation Finally Home. it's ongoing.
Right, and that's like a Tom Spooner, some Warrior's
Yeah.
Heart. So when those three folks started Warrior's Heart, he come up to me. We were at the SHOT Show, and we're both standing at this Cryptech party, and we're both drinking water. He's like, "What's up?" And I'm like, "Not much." And I put him through OTC, so I know him very well. Great dude, And what's up? Not much. What are you doing? Oh, nothing. We're just kind of having that conversation. Sure is good water, And I said, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm working with Warrior's Heart." And I'm like, so I'm going to be nice. Well, what do they do? I'm like, Warrior's Heart, that just sounds completely stupid. So he goes, "Well, what we do is we got a group of people that want to help soldiers, law enforcement officers, and first responders that have drug and alcohol addiction and traumatic brain injury and PTS. Really can't help with a TBI, but we can help with the other stuff to get them on their way." And I was like, and he goes, "And there's not a lot of dudes running around with white jackets poking them like they're freaking the rats that we're supposed to talk about here." They're actually there to help these guys and gals. And then the other thing is you're sitting around in this circle and you're looking across and it's another one of you. It's not a law enforcement dude looking at a guy that's there because he stole a car and now he's told he had to be there. This is a law enforcement guy looking at a law enforcement guy. This is a military dude looking at another military dude. And it works. I mean, they're spectacular. So once I found out about Warrior's Heart, I'm like, dude, yeah, man, what can I do to help? He goes, "I'll let you know." He goes, "Just start sending me customers." So I was like, okay. He's not asking for money.
Yeah.
He's asking for people that we can help. Yeah. So I'm talking with him and I'm telling people about this, but I didn't really have personal experience with it. So he tells me one day, he goes, "I'd really like you to be on the board of Warrior's Heart." And I go, "What do you want me for?" And he goes, "I just want you to be on the board of advisors and just come out there and see what we got cooking and talk to these other guys and help us brainstorm." And I'm thinking, I really have nothing to bring to this fight, but yeah, I'm always up for a new adventure, so let's go check it out. So I get on the board and go out and do that thing, and I see it, and it just, have you been there? Dude, you need to go.
I've heard a ton about it, though.
It's amazing. They're not out water painting, watercoloring. You know what they're doing? They're making stuff out of metal and wood. That's what they do to get their mind right. And that's also what kind of put me in that perspective. So I'm teaching a class, and I don't know what state or country I was in, but my phone rings. I think it was either my phone or I got a text or something. And this guy, it's a friend of mine, Duke Krieger, he says, and I call him the Righteous Duke because he's a preacher. And that's what his handle is, Righteous Duke. He goes, "Yeah, we got a guy. He needs Warrior's Heart. What do we do?" And I'm like, "Stand by." And I'm thinking, I've never tried the alert procedure, but let's see what happens. It's like 11 or 12 at night. I pick up the phone and I dial the number. Warrior's Heart. I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. I go, "Yeah, this is Kyle Lamb. I'm with the board, and I don't know what to do. There's this kid. Okay, what's the story?" And I said, "Well, here's his name, and this is what's up, and what do I do?" She said, you send them our number and tell him to call at any time, and we're here to help." Well, that's weird. That's not normally what happens.
No,
So the next morning, this kid, he's out west, he gets on the phone and he calls, because you got to have the person that has the trouble has got to do something. They can't just sit there and go, "Oh, take care of me, woe is me." They got to get in there and do something too. So he calls and they're like, "Roger that. Come to Texas." So they fly him to Texas, and when you walk in there, they welcome you home.
Yeah.
That's a powerful deal.
Yes,
this kid walks in there and they go, "Welcome home," and he kicks it, man. He crushes it, and he gets off the booze and works with his PTS. And some people say, "Well, it's PTSD." No, it ain't PTSD. It's post-traumatic stress. It ain't a disorder.
Yeah.
This guy has been through something. That's not a disorder. That's his history.
Yeah.
That's his past. That's what we want to help him with. So he goes in there and gets help. And the other thing, like I told you earlier, we can't save everybody. And that also means we can't save every marriage. We can't save every lick of trouble this guy or gal is going to get in. Let's just have those little wins. And the little win is that he's not drinking. He's not doing any medication. And he's talking to God. You know, he's got a good line of communication going on there. He did end up getting separated from his wife, and that's too bad. I wish that wouldn't happen. You know, and there's always hope that maybe something down the road will happen. But when we actually checked that, when I did that alert procedure and it worked, I'm like,
that's real.
Okay, Warriors Heart's the real deal. And and that was just one of many. And they've never let me down. And that doesn't mean that everybody has success when they go to Warriors Heart. It doesn't mean that. It means that they do the best that they can, and we save as many of these guys and gals as we possibly can, you know, from themselves.
Yeah.
So,
man, you've heard us talk about a lot. Kyle, these are great organizations he's mentioned, talked about. Stay in the fight. If you're watching, share this with your friends so your friends can help. Sometimes it don't take much. Whatever you got, if you got it. If you don't, you don't. It's okay too. But if you do have something, you can help. Because when you help, it gives us the opportunity to do things that you may not have the avenue to do. And these are avenues you can utilize and resources. Man, I can't thank you enough. Before we leave, though, we're going to talk about some rats. Some mice.
Lucas?
No.
The rat Lucas?
Well, we got, okay, so, here's what I want y'all to do. Lucas, his son does music. It's not country, but I've enjoyed listening to some of his stuff. He's a interesting cat. He's very artistic.
Yeah.
He's very creative. Check out his son, because we talked we always talk about music. You got to hear some songs. I said this podcast, I don't have a format. We're not going to do music every time. We're going to play some. You heard some of the stuff that we played with the band. But check out Lucas' stuff.
Yeah, Lucas Lamb Live.
Yeah.
And then his latest album is Vibe With Me. And it's, if you like Michael Jackson before he got the facelift, you'll he's got some funk. It's good.
It's really good
music,
stuff.
and it's all very, very positive.
Yeah.
And some of it, there's always inspiration. Where does that come from? And one of his songs is called Ride the Tiger. And I had a guy on my team, he said, when we hit an aircraft, what we're going to do is throw in a Bengal tiger with a little monkey on his back with cap guns, pow, 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 and he'll be shooting. And I always thought that'd be hilarious, Ride the Tiger, a little monkey on a tiger. And I told a cop this, and he goes, oh, you need to make a T-shirt like that. Well, we never made the T-shirt, but Lucas drew a picture of a Bengal tiger with a little monkey. You remember Whiplash, the little monkey that rides the dog?
Yeah.
Looks like Whiplash. And he's got pistols, and he's got night vision goggles flipped up on his head, little combat boots, and he's riding this Bengal tiger. So he thought that was hilarious. And then he watched the Vietnam, the Ken Burns thing, and there was something in there about Ride the Tiger. And he ends up writing that song. And
it sounds like you sound like you just described some unit patch.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that, especially the air guys, they love that kind of weird stuff.
Did you ever meet Benny Atkins? So he was a Medal of Honor winner. He won it during Obama's presidency, but he won it. The act
happened before.
Yeah, it was I forget what year, the 60s sometime. And he wrote a book called Seeing the Tiger. I forget what the name of it is. Tiger Amongst Us. So I see this, and I'm up at SEG Academy, and they go, there's a guy, he's a former SF guy, and he won the Medal of Honor. Or they go, there's a guy, an SF guy that's going to come up here. We want you to introduce him. And I'm going, okay. And they go, he won the Medal of Honor. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Whoever he is, I'm
exactly.
in. So they tell me this story, and I'm like, I've heard of this guy. So he's got this book coming out, and I'm thinking, and he passed away from the COVID here a couple months ago. So Tiger Amongst Us, I thought, he's thinking like they're wearing tiger stripe BDUs and all this stuff. Oh, no. When they evac'd their site, when their camp got overrun, and they're dragging their wounded and some of their dead with them, they're holed up. And there was Bengal tigers, or I don't know if they're Bengal tigers, but there's tigers. I don't know the difference between a tiger and a Bengal tiger. I don't know. But there's these tigers, and they're holed up, and all of a sudden they hear he has the tiger walk up and look at him. Now, I've had elk look at me and I've had bears look at me, but a tiger, bro, that's crazy. So this tiger looks at him, and then the tiger makes a growl and walks around their perimeter growling. And he's like, we're done. Because he got all these wounded and dead guys.
Oh, yeah.
They're just
smell of, yeah.
There's just death waiting on this tiger to tear it up. That tiger walked all the way around him, and all of the bad guys heard it, and they all left. And that saved their lives.
I'll be darned.
And they never saw that tiger again.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great story, though. And he told me, yeah, we wouldn't see him regularly, but every now and again we'd see. You don't see many tigers in Hickman County, but.
Yeah, that Dixon. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Mice. Rats.
Okay, so the mouse story, I don't know what you're talking about, but I used to, when I would deploy, I would always take an air pistol with me too, or an air rifle, and I would shoot critters.
Yeah.
So I ended up, I shot well, two things happened. I shot a mouse with this air pistol, and I had a picture with me with this mouse, and somebody took it and they put little black over the eyes of the mouse and then black over my eyes standing there. So then everybody thought that was pretty funny. I didn't see the picture till later, and then I was getting ready to go out on a mission, and I was putting on all my gear, and one of the guys, they took his BDU shirt. He's like, "Where's my shirt?" You know, we'd have all our stuff hanging there. He's like, "Where's my shirt? I can't find my BDU shirt." Somebody goes, "What's this?" And they open up the freezer and they pull out, there's a chunk of ice this big. And it's his BDU shirt folded up and frozen into a chunk of ice.
Oh, God.
It was amazing. So I'm getting my stuff on, and I pull back my shirt because I had it hanging up there to dry out. I pull it back, and it scared the crap out of me. There's a little doll I've still got it. I'll show you sometime. And it's jet black. Got a little afro and everything. And it's got a cigarette hanging out of its mouth. And it's one of those that when you set it up, its eyes open up and look at you. Scared the crap out of me. So one of the guys goes, "Let me get a picture." So I grab this doll, and I'm standing there, ha, ha, ha. And I'm all kitted out. Throw it back in there, away we go. I fly down to Baghdad a couple weeks later to do something, and I walk in the talk, and there's almost as big as picture of this guy here that you got up, whoever that is. Got this big old, that doesn't even look like you, bro. Is that really you?
Man, that's me.
Wow. That is one hipster bro right
ADD,
there.
Man.
Dude. So anyway, there's a picture that's this. You got the same disease I got, dude. Look, baby squirrel. So there's this big old picture, and it says, "Finally, some positive press from Iraq. Special operations soldier saves burning Iraqi baby." And they had this blown up this big, and I'm with this black doll
my
there.
gosh.
Oh, dude, I laughed and laughed.
Oh, my
They ended up giving me
gosh.
that picture. I've still got the picture, but I don't have the big one, but I still have the doll there. You know?
My God.
So anyway, and then you wanted the rabbit story too, didn't you?
Yes, the rabbits.
So Bob Horrigan.
Plural.
Yeah. Bob Horrigan was one of my soldiers, and great guy. Bob, and then he's got a twin brother, John. And I had never met John until Bob passed away, but we had done a kill class to learn how to kill and process a rabbit in a survival situation. It's just a good animal to do that with because it's edible, and it's much like a squirrel or any other little critter that you might find. So
a little easier to
tame. Yeah. So I'm out in the woods. Yeah. Can you imagine, like, if you said, "Okay, grab you a squirrel," you know what I mean? And if you try to do that with a squirrel, their tail comes off.
Yeah.
And then they run away anyway. So, not that I've tried that, but anyway. So I had to spend the night out in the woods that night, and it got so cold in North Carolina that night that 5-gallon water cans froze. Now that's cold in Wyoming. But in North Carolina, that's even colder because it's that humidity. It's just ridiculous. I come back to my room, and all I can wait on is getting a nice hot shower, and then I've got to get ready to go back out and do what I'm doing. I open my door, and this stench, first the heat hits me, and then the stench hits me, and it's the smell of rabbit piss and crap. And I look, and there's like 30 rabbits running around my room. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So I go down the hall. We're in a barracks. I go down the hall and I grab a trash bag and I walk in there and I start catching rabbits. And they're running around, you know, they're all happy because it's all warm, and I throw them all in there, and I take them all outside, and I let them go, and I come back in, and for the next half an hour, I swept and mopped and got my room tidied up there, and I stripped down. I was naked as a jaybird, and I'm walking across that room, and all of a sudden I'm like, somebody's watching me. And I look back, and there's a rabbit looking around the bunk bed, and he's looking at me like, oh, he saw me, you know. And I'm sure I was quite a sight to see there. So I go running after this final rabbit naked. And I grab him, and I stay naked, and I run outside and throw him and come back in there. And I take a shower and everything. But that was the rabbit story, and it took me a while to figure out who it was. But Bob.
We can imagine walking in and seeing Kyle naked holding a rabbit.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
What's happening here? So, that's me buzzing. Let me shut that down. Bob was killed in Iraq in 2005, and his twin brother, John, I stay in touch with. He's a knife builder down in Texas, and Bob was just a great guy. It was his last deployment. You know, you always hear that story, but that's what happened to Bob. And Bob was killed that night. Another guy named Mike McNulty, and just a bad state of affairs there. We lost 3 guys that month in Iraq. So that, for a small unit like us, that's pretty rough deal. But then when we went back, we were going to have a ceremony, and John comes to the ceremony, and he's a twin brother.
Oh, yeah.
And he walked in. He's a Ranger too.
Yeah.
And have you met him?
Yeah. No, I haven't met him.
So he walks in, and we all had to go in the gym and take a minute because we're like, holy cow. I mean,
because it's him.
And it sounds like him.
Yeah.
I mean, John just sounds and looks and mannerisms, everything is just like Bob. And anyway, so Bob had made me several knives. And with these knives, he would do a vine down the back of the knife with files. So when we got ready to do the Viking Tactics knives, I asked, Tops Knives makes those for us. I said, is there any way you can put this vine like this? And I sent them some pictures, and they started trying to machine it, and they go, how about this? And it's not exactly like he did. It doesn't look nearly as good as what he did, but it's a vine down the back of a production knife. It looks pretty cool, but that's just to pay tribute to Bob and Mike and those guys, and just, when I look at those, we call them the Bloodline series. So we've got the Patriot, the Crusader, and the Norseman. So it all.
Oh yeah.
My wife is more Norseman than I am, but I still try to go on her coattails there. But we got a little Bloodline. It's a line of red as liners. So there's a story to it. It's not just a knife to me. There's a story behind it. So anyway, that's
awesome.
That's the story from that deal. We had another one that. I've already told you the Ding Dong and Dash story, but we had you've heard that one.
Yes.
That's one of our Tennessee brethren there as well. But there was one of the guys found a prayer watch. Have you ever heard about a prayer watch? So it's a watch that goes off 5 times a day that tells the Muslims when to pray.
Yeah.
So this thing would go, and start speaking Swahili or something there. It wasn't Arabic, it was like Swahili. So these guys find this, and I'm driving through town one night, and we're in a car that we stole from some dead guy, and we're in civilian clothes, and all of a sudden, my buddy Jesse, he goes, stop the car, and I'm like, I stop, I'm grabbing my AK, because I think we're about to get in a gunfight.
It's happening.
He gets out like he's on fire, and he starts pulling his gear off. He's like, it's on me, and I'm going, dude, I've heard about aliens, but I've never seen one. I've got my AK, and I'm like, what do I do, You've seen those poltergeist in some of those movies right there. So he goes, it's on me. And all of a sudden he pulls off his body armor and he goes, here it is. And I'm like, what is that? And he goes, it's the prayer watch. And I'm like, what is the prayer watch? So he tells me, and I go, oh, okay. So then they put it in heads.
He did. Oh, you mean he didn't know?
No. So he put it in heads. We had this medic we called Head because he had a big head. And he puts it in the pistol grip of his rifle. Same thing. They're driving around doing something. All of a sudden, doing this thing. Stops. They find it in the rifle. He comes back and he says, you guys are a bunch of immature kids. Well, where's it at, Head? I threw it away. And they're like, what? Dude, that was hilarious. And you threw it away.
Thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So about 2 weeks later, these guys were all racked out. It's daylight. And we'd sleep during the day and do missions at night. And they're laying in their room, and all of a sudden, it's like out of a loudspeaker. And these dudes all jump out of their bed and they're looking at each other like, where's it at? And then they can't hear it. And they're like, oh. So the next night, same time, they're sitting there in their room. They're not in bed, and they're waiting. And ends up that head crawled up in the ductwork of the building.
Oh my God!
You know those
awesome.
Archer speakers?
Yeah.
He stuck an Archer speaker to that thing, so that thing was echoing through the whole.
Bunch of kids.
It was awesome. It was
he really got
it was amazing.
Oh, that's good. That's awesome, buddy. Thank you for coming.
Yeah,
I really
thanks for having
appreciate you
me,
being
man. It's
here.
awesome, and I appreciate what you do too. You know, we do what we do, but you do a lot of stuff behind the scenes that a lot of people don't know about. You're out there helping folks, and you know, whether it's helping me or other veterans, man, we appreciate it. We really, really appreciate what you do.
I hate to use the term, but we're in this together.
Oh yeah, that's kind of weird. I don't want to hold hands with you. I'm not a hipster like you are, but you millennials, I understand that sometimes
we'll see y'all on the next one, because otherwise he's just going to hammer me, and I deserve most of it, though. Thanks, buddy. Thanks for watching the Craig Morgan Music and More podcast and listening to it. And if you're listening now, that means you hung on to the end, and we thank you. Show your support by downloading this, sharing it with all your friends, and doing all of that, because when you do that, you get to help us help Operation Finally Home, providing mortgage-free homes for our men and women in the service. God bless you, and thank you.